The 40 Under 40 Africa Awards are back, and they're being hosted by Johannesburg this year. They honor and celebrate a cross-section of the continent's most influential and accomplished young business leaders under the age of 40. So how are they selected, the winners, and how do they enter, those who want to win? Well, we're joined by Nageli, who is a local host of the 40 Under 40 Africa Awards and himself a 2022 award winner. Mr. Mahlalela, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming through. And I suppose congratulations for last year. I would imagine that you are wanting to see more South Africans. There is a long list of them, in fact, who have been nominated for this award. And I would imagine you want to see more of them taking this award. Not that, African brothers and sisters are not deserving, but when you bring it closer to home, especially because it's being hosted in Johannesburg, you would want it to be a South African affair somewhat. Just talk to us about the 40 Under 40 Awards and what can be expected.
Good morning, and thank you to all our viewers back home. Good morning, Africa. Look, the 40 Under 40 platform has really been a wonderful platform for us as Black and White Teflop City. We came back with the award last year in the sports category, particularly of what we've done with Teflop, which is taking a rural team and making a real mark in going professional. The sports category in this year's awards, 40 Under 40 Africa 2023, is another Limpopo contestant. I would obviously be biased towards my home girl winning it, but also I think it's a great platform for South African youth to really start trading with the rest of Africa. We've somehow thought that South Africa is this only stage that we can trade, we can do great things. So I think over and above the opportunities to showcase our businesses, it's also an opportunity for us to meet with other Africans and make meaningful partnerships and friendships.
Of course, Nageli speaks of Mabatulanga, who is the nominee, of course, under the sports category. Mabatulanga physiotherapy is what she's known for, and she's, of course, going up against Amin Zariat, who is running Tibu Africa from Morocco. And, of course, there is also Mukansanga Salima Radia from Rwanda. But then there is also another South African in Dr. Kokejo Tsebe, who is, of course, representing UNIS in this particular category. So there's two South Africans in this. There's a whole lot of other South Africans in other categories, such as marketing and communications, as well as such as philanthropy and charity. So we are everywhere and we are trying to do big. You talk about how this also helps somewhat intercontinental, relationships and business. How so? What has Nageli Mahlalela and team been able to achieve since you won this award, at least on the continent?
Look, in our past edition, we had the honor of having the spouse of the Secretary of the Africa Free Continental Trade with us. And one of the things we said as BW Hauer, in partnership with our friends in Brazil and Ghana, we said we need to look at, number one, BW Hauer participating in a number of countries. We are currently looking at establishing in, for example, Ghana as well as Brazil. We do know that there has been companies that went with us last year that are now starting to do international trade with other countries. So you look at guys that are doing pottery. There's a lady that's now starting to import shea butter from Ghana. We've got our Mahoshi Tukwadi from Soropje doing a lot of trade with Mr. Richard's wife in terms of buying clothing and the like. So we're really starting to see the impact of this organization and this movement trading between each other. We know as BW, we probably over the 1 million rand mark in terms of intertrade with Ghana. It's very meager when you look at the potential that both countries have and the synergies that we have. Our team, Teflop City, is playing in the Bay Hill in the next 2 weeks. We would have loved to have maybe a Ghanaian and Nigerian also being part of the team. So that's really some of the things we're saying as a movement, as young people, let's begin to trade it with each other. Yeah.
Nageri, what 40 under 40 perhaps has an opportunity to zone in on is the potential of young people. You know, in this country, one of the biggest problems is unemployment. But when you go deeper into the unemployment statistics, you find that the majority is the youth. You know, and there's always this talk about maybe the government will never come and save you. So think out of the box. Try and find something else that you can do with even the limited resources you may have. This is an opportunity for the young people who are sitting at home and wondering, what can I do? This is where they can look and say, you can start something somewhere. It'll take maybe some time, but eventually you might end up being on 40 under 40, being recognized. And, you know, then you have the African continent and even the world looking at you. How can this address, you know, the scourge of unemployment?
Look, we've seen it in TEFLOP really address the scourge of unemployment. You realize that when we went to Ghana, we were really an unknown entity. And when we came back, there was this whole movement around TEFLOP City and BW. Some good publicity, some bad, but it's really allowed people to know what we do. It's really allowed us to maintain the jobs that we're able to create. And we started the company with less than 5 people. At some point, we were at 140. We're looking at now stabilizing at between 80 to 100 employees across the number of businesses that we're able to build. And that happened in a space of about 18 months. So it is possible for someone who was unemployed as we were during COVID to really start something out of what we can do, what Allah has granted us. To say, let us continue to hone our talent that is God-given and sell it to the rest of the world.
I'm going to stick on the topic of government. Have they spoken to you? Have they come to you? Have they offered any assistance? Have you gone to them to try and amplify BW and what it is you're doing in TEFLOP?
We've somehow had engagements with our local stakeholders, particularly the Polokwane municipality. There's been a number of initiatives that we've done together. They are an important enabler. We're looking at going into the national space, looking at, for example, the presidency in the Ministry of Youth. Perhaps we should look at what we can do to really give those newly admitted attorneys an opportunity to start their own law firms, maybe with small chambers where they pay a minimal amount of say, 3,000 Rand a month, just to get their practice going, because there's really no jobs available for graduates.
It's obviously 40 under 40, but how young really can you be to enter the competition?
Look, there's no age restriction. We're really looking at, obviously, when you're 21 or so, I'm sure you would be ready. But I think a 17-year-old, just like they would have it in China, I'm sure they can make a good showing in the 40 under 40. And
just before I let you go, Nagiri, just give us the details where it's happening, you know, when it's going to be and such.
All right. So the event starts with the summit in Freedom Park. It starts today at 11 o'clock. It will end at around 4 o'clock. We will then move to Sentin at the Leonardo Hotel from 17:30 up for 1800. And there we will probably be joined by the Minister of Youth. And that show should happen up until 11 o'clock this evening.
Nagiri, thank you so much for everything. All the best with today's event. And once again, congratulations for last year and what it has done, you know, for BW, what it has done for TEFLOP, what it has done for Limpopo, and I think at large, on the continent at least, what it has done for South Africa. We can only but hope, you know, that most of the South Africans, and not all of the South Africans who've been nominated here, can walk away with that award. Of course, that is Nagiri Mahlalela, who is the local host of the 40 Under 40 Africa Awards, of course, happening later tonight.